Salt, a substance we encounter daily on our tables, carries a history and meaning far deeper than we might imagine. It's curious to think that something so accessible and seemingly simple could play such a crucial role in spirituality and protection throughout the centuries. How can such a common mineral simultaneously be a powerful symbol of preservation, healing, and even destruction? Do the traditions surrounding the use of salt have any basis, or is it all just superstition? Paracelsus, the great alchemist and physician of the Renaissance, once said, "Salt is the guardian of the secrets of the earth and the mysteries of the spirit." What did he mean by that? In this video, we will explore these questions, delving deep into the hidden power of salt. We will uncover its applications in spiritual warfare, its significance in the scriptures, and how it has been used throughout history, both to protect and to curse. And most importantly, you will learn how to use salt correctly to defend your home, your family, and yourself from the negative forces that might be acting in your life. The knowledge you gain here could completely change your spiritual perception and provide you with powerful tools to face and combat the darkness that, more often than not, may be closer than we think. Salt is not merely a simple mineral. It is one of the oldest substances on our planet, formed through processes that date back to the creation of the earth. Its presence is a silent witness to the world's history, from the earliest days when, according to the Bible, God separated the waters and created the land. Salt was there as an essential component of this creation. But what makes it even more fascinating is that it is not just a physical element. It possesses a profound spiritual dimension, symbolizing purity and the power of the Creator. Let us pause for a moment. How can a simple crystal represent something so grand? On the physical plane, salt preserves life by preventing the decomposition of food, something that, in ancient times, was vital for survival. But what about on the spiritual plane? Salt has the power to preserve the integrity of the soul, protecting it from corruption and evil influences. Doesn't this make us question what else might be hidden in seemingly simple elements of our everyday lives? When we look at the scriptures, we see that salt appears in various significant moments. In Numbers, chapter 18, verse 19, God establishes a covenant of salt with the children of Israel, symbolizing an eternal and immutable alliance. What does this really mean? Just as salt is resistant to time and corruption, this covenant represents the permanence and faithfulness of God. Salt thus becomes a physical reminder that divine promises are eternal, that God's protection and grace are always present. Historically, salt was also vital in ancient societies, not only as an economic commodity, but as a substance of spiritual value. For example, in the Roman Empire, salt was so valuable that soldiers received part of their payment in salt, giving rise to the word salary. But did they see salt only as a form of payment? Or perhaps they recognized its spiritual value as a symbol of commitment and loyalty. This same view of salt as something sacred can be seen in many other cultures. The Hebrews, for example, used salt in all the sacrifices offered to God, ensuring that the offerings were pure and acceptable. This makes us reflect. Why was salt considered so essential to make an offering worthy of the sacred? Perhaps because it transcends its physical function, acting as a direct link between the human and the divine, ensuring that our actions are always aligned with spiritual laws. The scriptures are filled with passages that mention salt, and each of them reveals something unique about its spiritual power. One of the most striking examples can be found in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verses 19 to 22. Here, the prophet Elisha uses salt to heal the waters of Jericho. The city was suffering from a contaminated water source that caused death and infertility. But was it just the salt that healed the waters, or was there something deeper at work? Elisha, by casting salt into the water and invoking the word of God, transformed a harmful source into a source of life. But why use salt? This act demonstrates that salt, when combined with faith and divine intention, has the power to purify and transform what is impure and deadly into something pure and life-giving. Isn't it intriguing how something so simple can be a channel for divine intervention? This event is even more significant because it took place in Jericho, a city that had been cursed by Joshua. By purifying the waters with salt, Elisha not only revokes this curse but also restores divine grace upon the city. This makes us wonder, how many times has salt been used throughout history to reverse curses and restore blessings? In this context, salt becomes more than just an element of purification. It is a symbol of redemption, capable of transforming curses into blessing. Another fascinating example is the salt of the covenant, mentioned in Leviticus chapter 2, verse 13. God commands the Israelites to season all their offerings with salt. Was this merely a matter of taste, or did it have a deeper meaning? The salt of the covenant serves as a reminder that all offerings to God must be purified and marked by the eternal covenant that salt symbolizes. It is as if God is saying, always remember that your actions must be pure and faithful, just as this salt that preserves and purifies. Moreover, salt is also a symbol of divine judgment. In Genesis chapter 19, verse 26, Lot's wife is turned into a pillar of salt for disobeying God's command not to look back as she fled from Sodom's. Why salt? This transformation was not random. Salt here symbolizes the inevitable result of disobedience. It becomes a physical marker of resistance to the divine command, a perpetual reminder of the consequences of ignoring God's will. These examples show that salt is not merely an element of purification or preservation. It is a profound symbol that repeatedly appears in the scriptures to remind us of the importance of faithfulness, purity, and obedience to divine laws. Are we using salt only as seasoning, or can we begin to see it as a tangible connection to the divine? Beyond its sacred role in the scriptures, salt has a rich and fascinating history in occultism and esoteric practices. In many mystical traditions, salt is seen as a crystal with the ability to absorb, transmute, and even amplify energies. But what makes salt so special? Its crystalline structure, which forms naturally and symmetrically, is often interpreted as a representation of balance and order in the universe. Isn't it intriguing to think that such a simple mineral could be so deeply connected to cosmic harmony? In ceremonial magic, salt is often used to draw circles of protection around altars and practice spaces. This circle serves to isolate the sacred space from the outside world, creating a barrier that prevents the entry of malevolent entities or negative energies. Is it the salt that creates this barrier, or is the power in the intention of the one who uses it? By delineating this space, salt establishes a clear threshold between the profane and the sacred, allowing the practitioner to operate safely within a spiritually protected environment. This practice of creating a magic circle with salt is not mere superstition. It has roots in ancient beliefs that salt can create a true spiritual fortress. But the power of salt in magic goes beyond mere protection. In certain traditions of black magic, salt is used to seal pacts with infernal entities or to cast devastating curses. Why would something so pure and sacred be used for evil? Salt, when combined with other elements, such as blood or specific herbs, can create a powerful bond between the practitioner and the forces of the underworld. However, caution is necessary, as salt, being of a sacred nature, can reverse its properties and act against those who manipulate it improperly. Doesn't this make us reflect on the dual power of salt, which can be both a blessing and a curse, depending on how it is used? In other traditions, such as Kabbalah, salt is seen as a symbol of resilience and immortality. It is used in rituals of healing and exorcism to purify bodies and souls tormented by negative influences. What makes salt so effective in these rituals? Perhaps it is its ability to restore the natural balance that has been disturbed by evil forces. The belief in the healing power of salt is ancient and can be found in various cultures around the world, where it is considered a purifying agent capable of removing both physical and spiritual impurities. Historically, salt has also been used in pagan practices to consecrate places and objects. In ancient Greece, for example, it was common to offer salt to the gods during consecration rituals, believing that it would attract their protection and blessing. Did the ancient Greeks see salt merely as a material gift, or was there something deeper at play? To them, salt was a gift from the gods, an element that, because of its purity, was worthy of being offered in sacrifice. This practice continued in various forms over the centuries, adapting to different cultures and religions, but always maintaining salt as a symbol of purity, holiness, and spiritual power. Salt, with its purifying and protective properties, is one of the oldest and most powerful weapons in spiritual warfare. But how can we use it effectively in times of spiritual crisis? When negative forces seem to be at their peak, salt can be employed in various ways to ensure the protection and purification of people, objects, and environments. Is it enough to simply scatter salt around, or is there something deeper behind this practice? One of the most common ways to use salt in spiritual warfare is in the purification of spaces. Sprinkling salt in the four corners of a house or a room creates a circle of protection, preventing negative energies from entering or remaining in the space. But why does this work? The act of scattering salt should be accompanied by prayers or invocations that reinforce the intention of purification. Isn't it the combination of faith with the physical act that activates the spiritual properties of salt? By doing this, you are not only creating a sacred environment, but also inviting the presence of the divine to protect and bless the space. In addition to protecting spaces, salt can also be used to consecrate objects. Sacred utensils, talismans, and even money can be purified with salt to remove any negative energy they may have accumulated. Can a simple grain of salt really purify an object? The process of consecration is especially important for items that will be used in rituals, or that must remain free from malevolent influences. When salt comes into contact with these objects, it absorbs any spiritual impurity, making them fit for sacred use. This use of salt as a purifier is a practice that transcends cultures and eras, demonstrating its efficacy and power throughout history. In situations of more intense spiritual warfare, salt can be used to neutralize spells or curses. But how exactly is this done? It is essential that the salt be consecrated specifically for this purpose, through a powerful prayer or a dedicated ritual. Once consecrated, the salt becomes an extremely effective spiritual tool, capable of breaking curses and restoring spiritual harmony wherever it is used. This makes us wonder, how often can a simple act of consecration transform something ordinary into a powerful spiritual weapon? Another effective practice is the use of salt in personal liberation rituals. If you feel that you are under spiritual attack, a salt bath can help cleanse your aura and remove any negative energy that may be attached to you. This bath should be done with consecrated salt, and during the process, it is important to visualize the salt extracting and dissolving all the spiritual impurities from your body. But is this ritual truly effective? Many believe it is, as it not only purifies, but also strengthens your aura, making it more resistant to future attacks. Historically, the use of salt in protection rituals dates back to ancient traditions, such as those of the Celtic peoples. During Samhain, a festival that marked the beginning of winter, and the time when it was believed that the veil between the world of the living and the dead was thinnest, the Celts used salt to ward off evil spirits. Sprinkling salt around homes and villages created a spiritual barrier that prevented the spirits of the dead from causing harm. Does this practice still have relevance today? Perhaps more than ever, as salt continues to be seen as a powerful guardian between the material and spiritual worlds. The symbolism of salt transcends religious and cultural boundaries, being revered in various mystical traditions around the world. In Japan, salt is used in religious and social ceremonies to purify spaces and ward off evil spirits. Have you ever wondered why sumo wrestlers throw salt into the ring before a match? They do this to purify the space, ensuring that the fight is fair and protected from negative spiritual influences. Does salt have the power to change the energy of a place? In the Middle East, salt is used in pacts of friendship and alliance. Sharing salt with another person symbolizes the creation of a sacred bond, a promise of eternal loyalty that transcends life and death. This makes us reflect, are we underestimating the importance of this gesture? This salt covenant is seen as inviolable, and breaking it is considered a serious offense, both spiritually and socially. When we share salt, we are sealing an alliance that goes far beyond the present moment. In Africa, salt is used in initiation and healing rituals. In many tribes, salt is considered a gift from the gods, used to bless and protect initiates in spiritual rituals. Does salt carry within it a direct connection to the divine? In wedding ceremonies, for example, couples share salt as a symbol of a union that should be as enduring and incorruptible as the mineral itself. This shows how salt is viewed as a sacred element, capable of sealing pacts and spiritually protecting those involved. These cultural and mystical practices highlight the universal role of salt as a symbol of purity, protection, and loyalty. And what can we learn from this? Different peoples, regardless of their beliefs, have recognized and revered the spiritual power of salt throughout history. Should we begin to see salt, not just as a seasoning, but as a powerful spiritual tool? The use of salt in purification and protection rituals is also a constant in many religious traditions. In Christianity, for example, salt is blessed and used in exorcism rituals to expel demons and evil spirits. Does this really work? The belief is that salt, as a sacred element, has the capacity to purify and protect the body and soul from malevolent influences. This practice is especially common in the Catholic Church, where blessed salt is used in baptisms and exorcisms as a way to ensure that the person is protected against evil. In Hinduism, salt is frequently used in spiritual cleansing rituals. During purification ceremonies, salt is scattered around temples and homes to ward off evil spirits and attract positive energies. Have you ever wondered how something so simple can balance the energies of a place? In Hinduism, it is believed that salt has the ability to harmonize and bring peace, dispelling any negative influence. In Hebrew culture, salt is used in consecration and purification ceremonies. In the Talmud, salt is mentioned as a symbol of covenant and purity, being used in rituals to purify sacred objects and places of worship. Can salt really protect a sacred place? For the Hebrews, salt is a purifying and protective element, capable of driving away negative influences and maintaining the sanctity of spaces. These cultural and mystical traditions show us that salt is much more than a simple mineral. It is a universal symbol of purity, protection, and loyalty. And perhaps, by using salt in our own lives, we can also connect with this rich spiritual tradition that spans the centuries. In alchemy, salt is one of the three fundamental principles, alongside sulfur and mercury. But what does this mean? These three principles represent the primordial substances that compose all things in the universe, each with a profound esoteric significance. Salt, in particular, is associated with the body and the crystallization of spiritual energy in the material world. Could this help us better understand our own existence? In the alchemical view, salt is the principle of fixation, the force that gives form and structure to chaos, making it comprehensible and useful. Alchemists believe that salt contained the key to transmutation, both of the body and the soul. Think about it. How could something so simple contain the secret of spiritual transformation? In the alchemical process, salt underwent various purifications, representing the adept's journey toward enlightenment. Just as raw salt is refined until it becomes a pure and crystalline substance, the human soul can also be transformed and elevated through spiritual purification. This alchemical view of salt reflects its spiritual use in purification and protection. Can we apply these concepts in our daily lives? Just as the alchemists work to purify salt in their operations, we too can use salt to purify our lives and spaces, removing spiritual impurities and restoring harmony. Salt, therefore, is not just a physical element, but a profound symbol of the spiritual journey and the quest for perfection. Isn't it fascinating how something so everyday can hold so many esoteric secrets? Salt also plays a crucial role in internal alchemy, the process of spiritual transmutation that occurs within each of us. In this context, salt is seen as a symbol of wisdom and spiritual knowledge acquired through experience and internal purification. But can we truly transform our souls as alchemists transformed salt? The journey to enlightenment is often compared to the transformation of raw salt into pure salt, symbolizing spiritual growth and union with the divine. The connection between salt and spiritual wisdom can be found in various mystical traditions. In Gnosticism, for example, salt is seen as a symbol of divine wisdom, transmitted to the individual through spiritual experience. But how can we access this wisdom? Salt, in this context, is seen as a purifier of the mind and spirit, allowing the individual to reach a state of clarity and spiritual understanding. Is it possible that something so simple can open the doors to a deeper understanding of reality? Moreover, in alchemy, salt is associated with the preservation of life and immortality. Could salt have the power to preserve the soul as it preserves food? The belief that salt prevents decay is rooted in the idea that it is a symbol of immortality and eternity. In alchemy, salt is often associated with the concept of the salt of the earth, the substance that gives life and maintains creation in balance. This vision makes us ponder, could salt really be the key to the preservation of the soul? These alchemical ideas about salt reflect its spiritual significance and its role in the quest for enlightenment and immortality. If we begin to see salt not just as a seasoning, but as a symbol of spiritual purification and preservation, perhaps we can discover new paths to transformation and spiritual evolution, using this sacred substance in our own journey. In times of intense spiritual warfare, when the forces of darkness seem most active, salt can be one of your most powerful allies. But how can we ensure its effectiveness? For salt to fully play its role as a spiritual guardian, it must be consecrated. And what does it mean to consecrate something? Consecrating salt involves dedicating it to divine service, transforming it from a simple mineral into a spiritually powerful tool. This makes us wonder, can any of us transform something ordinary into something sacred? The consecration of salt can be performed through a specific prayer, asking God or your spiritual guides to bless the salt, making it effective against any evil force. After consecration, the salt becomes a powerful tool of protection that can be used to create spiritual barriers. Sprinkling a continuous line of salt along the doors and windows of your home creates an invisible but extremely effective barrier against evil spirits and negative energies. Can this simple act really protect a home? It is believed that it can, especially when done with faith and conviction, as the intention behind the act is what activates the spiritual properties of salt. In addition to protecting spaces, salt can also be used in personal purification rituals, such as salt baths. But how do these baths work? This ritual is particularly effective for those who feel they have been targeted by spiritual attacks, or who carry a negative energetic load. By dissolving consecrated salt in warm water and bathing in it, you allow the salt to cleanse your aura, removing any spiritual impurities and strengthening your energetic protection. During the bath, visualize the salt extracting and dissolving all negative influences. It seems simple, but many believe that this practice can truly restore inner harmony and prepare you to face new spiritual challenges. Salt can also be a powerful agent in family liberation rituals, especially in cases of curses or ancestral bonds affecting your family. How are these rituals performed? To break these negative connections, consecrated salt can be sprinkled in the four corners of the house and applied to specific points on the body, such as the abdomen, renouncing any hereditary curse. This ritual should be conducted with great reverence, as it aims not only to protect the current generation, but also to liberate all future generations from malevolent influences. Doesn't this make us question the power of ancient spiritual traditions and how they can impact our lives today? Using salt as nighttime protection is also an ancient and extremely effective practice, especially when it is believed that spiritual vulnerability is greater during sleep. Sprinkling a little salt around the bed or under the pillow creates a barrier that prevents the approach of disturbing spirits or the manifestation of nightmares. Is this barrier really effective? Many believe it is, as salt acts as a spiritual shield, ensuring that your rest is protected and that you can recover your spiritual strength. Historically, the use of salt for protection during times of spiritual vulnerability dates back to ancient practices, such as those of the Celtic people, who used salt to ward off evil spirits during Samhain, one of the main celebrations of the Celtic calendar. Do these practices still have relevance today? The Celts believed that during Samhain, the veil between the world of the living and the dead was thinnest, allowing evil spirits to roam the earth. By spreading salt around homes and villages, they created a barrier that prevented these spirits from causing harm. This ancestral practice highlights the wisdom of ancient peoples in recognizing salt as a protective element, and perhaps we should rediscover this wisdom in our modern lives. Salt, although something we encounter daily, is an element of profound spiritual importance. It not only preserves and purifies in the physical world, but also acts as a powerful ally in spiritual protection and purification. Over the centuries, salt has been revered in various cultures and religions as a gift from the gods, a symbol of immortality, purity, and spiritual power. This makes us wonder, are we still underestimating the power of salt in our lives? By understanding and applying the esoteric and biblical teachings about salt, we can unlock its hidden potential and use it to transform our lives, protect our homes and families, and win spiritual battles. And by using salt with intention and faith, we may discover that it is much more than just a seasoning. It is a powerful spiritual tool, a bridge between the physical and the divine. If you are interested in exploring more about spirituality, I have specially selected some videos for you, full of deep knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you will love. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step to transforming your reality.